Good morning. My name is Kelsey and I'm an ECU student in the English Department PhD program. Today I'm making a video to briefly introduce you to the different ways and types of feedback you will receive in college. So, the form of feedback that pretty much everyone is most familiar with, that probably everyone will have in high school, is proofreading. Proofreading usually just consists of a set of standardized symbols that are added to your paper to indicate places where you need to edit. And when I say edit, I mean what we call lower order concerns. Lower order concerns consist of grammar, spelling, word choice, and other sentence level changes you might want to make in your writing. For example, proofreading might include the symbol A, a letter A over your writing for awkward. Awkward meaning your phrasing, the way you ordered that phrase in some way, felt awkward for the person reading. They felt like the order of the words could be a different order and it would have the same meaning, but it would perhaps flow more smoothly or make more sense. Or there might be a LC in cursive, meaning that you need to make the letter above it lowercase, but you have it capitalized. So that's what a lot of people consider lower order concerns, and that's what a lot of people consider proofreading and editing to consist of. So in college, you might start getting less proofreading and more of other sorts of feedback, depending on the teachers you get. The next type of feedback you'll see is peer review. Peer review is what will happen either in or out of class with your classmates. A lot of times it's very structured. Your teacher will give you a worksheet to fill out or questions to answer. And on these sheets, there will be very specific questions you need to answer about your peer's paper. There will be very specific concerns you need to look for in the writing based on the assignment requirements. And these are usually higher order concerns. These are things like good organization, a strong and arguable thesis, fulfilling the assignment requirement, things that prove that you've got the bigger picture of your writing, things that prove the quality of the content of your writing. We consider these things higher order concerns because they are about your message in your writing. There is a whole field or realm or school of thought, whatever you want to call it, in writing pedagogy that says these concerns, that these are the higher order concerns, these are the things that students should prioritize because they prove that the student has their ideas in order. Their ideas are in order, their ideas are well thought out, they understood the assignment, and they knew how to execute the assignment in a way that demonstrated their knowledge. And in school, that's really what should be the major concern. That should be what people care about the most. But there are a lot of schools, a lot of instructors, a lot of writing labs, and other groups who still aren't quite on board with that, especially in departments outside of English, in my experience. They still only care about the grammar, meaning the punctuation, the spelling, little things like that don't demonstrate your knowledge of the topic, don't prove your knowledge of the topic. They just prove you're a good typist because you're not making typos, typographical errors. That type of feedback you're usually going to be doing together, meaning you're going to be giving your peer, your classmate, who is your partner, feedback at the same time as they're giving you feedback. And a lot of times you'll be able to collaborate. As they're reading and having questions, you'll be able to answer them immediately. So the next form that you're going to get a lot is tutoring. Comes from tutoring and writing labs. So tutoring and writing labs, I'm going to use those terms to talk about the sorts of services and facilities that are still mostly on board with the idea that grammar spelling, punctuation, things like that should be the priority. And these places, which are called, often called labs, a lab like a laboratory, the purpose is to fix your writing because your writing is wrong and needs fixing. And you're a bad writer who needs to be corrected. I put all those things in air quotes for an important reason. It's because I'm not of that school of thought. In the description box below, I'll link an article, maybe a few, about why we don't like to use those terms and those ways of thinking when we emphasize what we consider higher order concerns. And that essay that I'm going to link is Mike Rose's Language of Exclusion. I think that's what it's called. But yeah, I'll link that down below. Starting off the bat thinking that student writing is wrong or bad or poor means you started off on the wrong foot. You didn't start off wanting to learn. You just wanted to, and learning to write for the future, you started off only caring about fixing this one paper. But it doesn't really provide students with much for the future. So that type of writing lab is a lot like math labs and science labs you will encounter, and science tutoring centers and math tutoring centers and other academic tutoring centers that you'll find where you go in and you sit down with your homework and someone comes around and helps you with that problem, solving that one problem. That's great for today. It's great for getting today's homework done, but it's not great for teaching you how to do the problems so that you know in the future, so that you can apply the knowledge later and build your skills for the future. It just helps you for today, basically. It's a quick fix. And a lot of students want that and need that because school is very stressful. Getting all the homework done is very stressful. But it's a short-term solution when in reality, students are often going to need to do that sort of thing a lot more, especially if it's your major. You're going to continue to need to know how to solve those problems or write that thesis statement or make that argument or whatever it may be, but you don't get instruction on the skills and strategies you need to continue to do it. You only get suggestions on how to solve it for this one problem, which doesn't necessarily help in the future. So that's what you're going to get in writing labs and tutoring centers, if that's the type of thing that they're geared towards. They're geared towards helping you with this paper today, solving this small problem today. And the rest of your problems on the homework assignment or the rest of your concerns for the writing might not be addressed. There might be enough people there needing help that you only get help with one problem. And the rest of the equations or whatever are nothing like that one. So you only learned one thing that day. That was completely separate from all the other concerns you had. In contrast, what I would call a writing center or writing consultation is what we do at ECU's writing center. At this writing center, the focus is not on proofreading. The focus is on those higher order concerns, fulfilling the assignment requirement, organization, strong thesis, or main idea, an arguable topic if you need to argue, or a persuasive topic if you need to persuade, or a logically sound and informative topic if you need to inform. So these higher order concerns are what we focus on at ECU's Writing Center and other writing centers around the world, I suppose, is not just let's mark up this piece of paper, this one essay you have for today so that you can get that grade that you want tomorrow. It's about helping you develop skills so that you can identify writing concerns yourself so that you can be proactive in the future and really learn that writing skill to apply later. So it's much more about the bigger picture and the long run, because writing is a skill that everyone has to develop. It's not really a talent that people are born with when it comes to academic writing. People can have a talent for poetry or a talent for songs, I think, but academic writing is such a very, very specific and sometimes convoluted way of having to articulate yourself that then you've got so much that you've got to prove with every little word sometimes to fulfill assignment requirements, because you are being graded, that you need to constantly be practicing at it. It's not just something you are a savant at, basically. And you can ask anyone who is a writer, who is in academia, who is a professor or far along in their master's degree or doctoral program. Writing is a skill, and you get rusty. Everyone does. You're not born a good or bad writer. It's something you develop over time by engaging in the practices involved in focusing on those higher order concerns. There's always going to be an editor or a spell checker tool that catches those typographical errors, but catching the concerns that are higher order, fixing your thesis if it's not arguable, if it's not clear, fixing your organization. I don't mean to say fixing, but it's the term that everybody uses. Improving your thesis or things like that. There's not a spell checker tool for that. There's not. Grammarly doesn't do that. Microsoft Word doesn't do that. There's probably never going to be a computer program that can do it the way that they can help you with lower order concerns, because they're complicated. They are about content, and they are about quality, not quantity. And they are also not necessarily easy to identify. So that's what I consider the type of feedback you'll get in a writing center or with a writing consultant. It's about helping you develop as a writer overall. So lastly, the final type of feedback you'll likely get is feedback from your instructor. Feedback from your instructor often will encompass all of the previous types of feedback I've talked about. It will be lower order concerns, higher order concerns. It will be feedback that's specific to this class and this assignment. It will also be feedback that helps you grow as a writer overall for the future, ideally. A lot of times that is the type of feedback you can expect in English classes, but it's something you might have to hope for in other departments, depending on the level of class you're in and the field. If it's not a field that's writing adjacent, English adjacent, like communication, or creative writing or things like that, you might not get certain feedback at certain times from certain professors. Sometimes they're focused on one type of writing concern when they give feedback, and they focus on one at a time, because that scientific or mathematic or engineering or business or nursing or whatever type of content that they're teaching you is so detailed and so important that if you're going to be in that field, that they need to focus on very specific things and not everything. So those are the types of feedback you're going to get in college. Like I said, you might be mainly accustomed to the lower order concerns, the editing or proofreading. But in college, you'll hopefully learn about all of these types of feedback, and you'll figure out what's most useful to you. Not everything is useful to everybody in every paper. So down in the description box below, I'll try to give you some resources about all of these types of feedback and implementing feedback and deciding which changes to make or not make. So I hope this has been helpful to you.